This week, Amazon's New World MMO exited beta and the official servers have launched. There's a lot to cover in the new player experience, so we're just gonna hop right in. So, I'll start off by saying that I knew very little about this game going in. Of course, I knew it was happening, and when it was first announced, I was kind of excited, but it eventually fell off my radar. The low magic setting and open world PvP aren't typically my thing, so I just pushed it to the side. When I found out about the official launch day and that several of my friends were going to try it out, I decided I might as well too. New World's gameplay system is a little bit different from other MMOs. Of course, you still level up, you still pick a role to play, though we'll talk more about that in a bit. The faction system is incredibly important, and the setting is really unique for an MMO, set at the end of the Age of Exploration. Though there are no defined classes, the combat structure still very much resembles the MMO holy trinity of tank, healer, and DPS, or damage. By equipping a certain gem, your weapon abilities gain a taunt effect, making you a tank. Lifestaff's primary purpose is healing, and all weapons do damage, with many being catered toward a high DPS playstyle. I really like that you're not tied into any particular playstyle from the beginning. In New World, you gain abilities by leveling up your weapons, not your character. As you fight through the Lost around Eternum, you'll gain experience in, for example, Sword and Shield. This isn't bound to the weapon you're using at the time, but that category of weapon as a whole. That way, when you get a better weapon, you still have the abilities you've unlocked. You can be super flexible just by leveling a few different weapon types. You can even slot a combination of different abilities for the same weapon set. If, for example, you're focusing on being a sword and shield tank, you may want to pull a couple of the weapon abilities from the defender tree, with a gem slotted into your gear to get that taunt effect, while also pulling your third ability from the sword master tree for higher damage. Your playstyle and preferences are entirely up to you. Currently, I'm enjoying playing with either a Warhammer or Great Axe as my primary and a Lifestaff as my secondary. This, combined with a set of heavy armor, allows me to frontline for my group of DPS friends when needed, while also providing support during larger scale conflicts where being a tank isn't as big of a deal. Factions are kind of the backbone of New World. At level 10, when you complete the quest Commitment to the Cause, you'll be able to choose one of 3 player-operated factions: the Marauders, the Covenant, or the Syndicate. This choice doesn't really have any effect on the story or the narrative, but it has a huge effect on the gameplay. As part of one of these factions, you get to participate in fairly large-scale faction conflicts. When a territory is unowned, a faction can save money and purchase the territory. There are all sorts of buffs and bonuses for being part of the faction that owns the territory, like decreased costs for crafting and fast travel, as well as some XP and influence buffs. It doesn't stop there though, as another faction can capture your forts, build influence of their own, and go to war to take your territory from you. This is more or less the defining gameplay loop of New World. In addition to combat, there are plenty of crafting and gathering skills and recipes to work through if you'd rather provide value for your faction or your company, the guild system in New World. That way, you can craft armor and weapons, cook food with beneficial effects, make potions that give health regen, or even make bags to increase your carry weight. These are all important stats and attributes for you and the army that you're now part of, and the benefits of having players focus largely on making these items or gathering raw materials can't be overstated. Speaking of crafting and gathering, one of the interesting things about this game is that there are no NPC merchants or vendors. So don't expect to go mine a ton of rock or ores for XP and then just dump them off on the nearest poor, unsuspecting NPC sap. In New World, the economy is determined entirely by the players. The Trading Post, New World's version of an auction house, is where you'll be doing all of your buying and selling. In my opinion, this is a really cool feature because it means there's a real market value placed on items of the game and no artificial limitations or outside forces controlling things. It means that if an item is of high demand, then it'll sell for a higher price, with no outside limitations aside from what the market values it at. And in what's definitely an ironic feature for a game made by Amazon, taxes are included as part of the player-ran economy. You'll find taxes on owning property, trading at the post, fees for crafting and refining. Believe it or not, this actually plays an important part of the game outside of being a depressing reminder of the real world. Whenever a company takes control of a territory for their faction, that company gets to decide the taxes for the area. The company then gets to use that money to unlock higher tier crafting stations and otherwise allocate resources for, hopefully, the good of all. Now, the game did have a bit of a rough launch. On day 1, the servers were quickly overwhelmed. resulting in login queues well above 10,000 people for some servers. While this isn't necessarily surprising for an MMO and additional worlds were added fairly quickly, it still led to a fair bit of strife among players that had been looking forward to launch day. Additionally, many players were frustrated due to the cap of 2,000 players per server, but hopefully numbers will stabilize a bit over the coming weeks. There are also definitely some quality of life changes that can be made. One of the bigger ones that I've seen brought up is the addition of mounts. Occasionally, when you need to travel to a settlement a few regions over and you haven't been there yet to unlock fast travel, you'll end up traveling several kilometers on foot. This often takes you through territory that you're underleveled for and takes quite a bit of time. The devs don't seem to think that there's a need for them right now, but my W key disagrees. It's only a matter of time before they add them, but from what I've seen, they're currently still trying to decide the exact functionality that they want mounts to provide. So what do you think? Is New World the next big thing in MMOs? Is it here for a few months before it gets solved and left to a small, select player base? I know that I'm enjoying the game right now way more than I expected to, and I'm curious to see what kind of changes are going to be made in the future. I'm personally hoping for more dungeons, some form of raiding, and of course, mounts. Let me know what you think down below. Thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one.